Alright, so today we're going to be changing out the e-brake shoes inside, and I'm going to start off with taking off the 14mm bolts on top of the caliper to be able to get this center section off. Alright, I'm going to put one back in just so I can depress the caliper a little bit. Matter of fact, put the other one in too. Alright, so what I'm doing now is just depressing that piston a little bit. I opened up the brake reservoir. This will just make it easier later when I get ready to depress the caliper piston fully. Sorry about the background noise. Somebody out there is drilling, sawing something. Alright, so then I'm just going to grab this, put a zip tie through it, and I'm going to put it over here against the sway bar. Alright, next step is there's two 17mm bolts on the back of the brake pad housing. So I'm going to break those two loose. Just to make sure I don't lose track of what bolt goes where, I'm going to go ahead and put these ones in the top for where the caliper goes. Don't worry, I'll put anti-seize on those later when I'm done. Let's see if this is stuck on there. Yep. Let me undo the e-brake and see if it'll come loose. Alright, once I undo the e-brake, it came straight off. Alright, so I already undid one, but you have to undo both of these spring retainers. The auto parts stores near me do not sell or rent out the kits anymore. So you gotta just get in here with a pair of pliers. Kinda get in here, push it, and you gotta spin it. And just pop it off. And this is the issue usually. You'll be sitting there working on it, and it's got to go through these little tiny holes, or through this little piece. The center pin has to go through there, and then basically you just turn it around here. But on these hubs you just have a small tiny access hole to work with, so it's really a pain to do. So most of the videos I see on YouTube, nobody actually does that. They don't film putting it back on. So I'll try and see what happens. If I get frustrated, I'm sorry. All right, so I'll catch up with you when I get to the next piece. All right, so the next step is to get these top springs off, which release the shoes. Don't lose that. You take the self-adjuster off, and the retaining spring off the back, take the spring off the back side of the shoe. That way you can actually put that onto the new one. Don't lose that guy either. And then there's a C-clamp right here. Pry it apart, take a C-clamp off, take this off, and then put it onto your new shoe. Alright, so I got the pin off, and now we're up to, and I got the other shoe off. So now we're up to putting the new shoes on. And if you haven't seen the box yet, I wonder if you can judge by the color what these are. There's a part number if you want it. These are the Project Mu e-brake shoes, or side brake shoes. So we're going to be putting those on, and then readjusting the self-adjuster on the bottom to make sure that our rotor still fits around it. The really big pain of doing this, well, I got to put the spring or the e-brake shoe back onto this, which is just going to be like this, and then I put in the retaining clip. Alright, so apologies, did not film it. I see why every other YouTuber or guy that's working on these e-brake shoes does not film putting back in these retaining springs, because it's just a pain in the dick. You just gotta kind of push it in and get it to where like it'll go through the hole, and then you have to turn it. and all meanwhile you're holding like the pin on the back and you're holding the shoe up and everything like that, and it's just it's frustrating. But got both of those in. Down here I got the self adjuster back in and the retaining spring on the back end, and now the only thing that's left is there's this I have to put in. All right, it goes in like that, and then you just have your 2 springs left to put in, and then your brake shoes are in, and then we can start adjusting it for the new rotor. I'd make a tool for this, but I don't have that tool. For some reason the AutoZone near me said that they don't rent out kits anymore, and then I went to O'Reilly's and they don't have a e-brake shoe or a drum kit set of tools. All right, we got them both in. So now this all should still be able to move around in here, but it won't move far. All right, first thing I'm going to do is I've turned the rotor inside out. Obviously this is not the way it's going to go. It's just going to clean off the edge, wipe it down. All right, that is fully wiped down now. Let's put a little bit of this on here. And this is just so that the rotor doesn't ever get stuck to it. I'm also going to do that to the spacer just in case. So that fit on really easily. Alright, I played with the adjuster just to see if it'll actually be a little tighter, because it was mega loose before. Alright, so down on this rotor is loosening, up is tightening. Saved it. Alright, I'll be back with you guys 1 second. I gotta locate this with a light real quick. Alright, so now we got the rotor on, and with the e-brake off, it just barely turns. With the e-brake on, it pretty much stopped. So I'm gonna try that out, see where that goes. Worst case scenario, if I wear it out a little bit, it'll be ready for e-brake pulls if I ever do those. So next step we got is put this guy back on, so that we can get ready to put on our new brake pads. Now we are ready to move our piston the rest of the way in, and I'm going to show you how to do that here in a second, and then put the new pads in. What I did was I just took an old brake pad, sat it on the caliper itself, used the C-clamp, and just tightened it down until the clamp is gone. My reservoir is uncapped so that it can actually go back into the system. And I put some grease lubricant, brake grease, onto the back of these pad shims. That way there's no squeaking from those. And then I just take this, put it into its hole, put it into the hole on top, make sure everything is in, then pop this back down, and I'll be able to put the bolt back in. And tighten it down. All right, for this part, you just got to pull these pins out of the, or this retaining pin out of these two pins. Then be careful when you're pulling this out because this will shoot. Alright, once you get those out, then you'll have this pin. Don't let it fly at the camera like it did the last time I did this. Alright, now I'm going to grab a screwdriver, do the same thing that I did on the back. Alright, and as you can tell, the pads are not that bad, but it's time to change out the rotors. So since I'm changing out the rotors, there's no point in not changing out the pads. Possibly 2, maybe 3 17mm bolts. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, and then the same concept as the back. Just take an old pad and go ahead and tighten up the caliper, push it back. But since I have the LS400 brake pads or brake calipers on the front, you got to do it twice. Be careful on the front just to not get rid of any paint. Once you're done there, you're pretty much good to go. Take out this pad, which, like I said, pads are still pretty good, but it's time to upgrade. Alright, so what I did was I just used my hammer and beat around the rotor, since I'm not keeping this rotor anyways. And now we're back to where we just put the new rotor on, spray down the brake cleaner, and put the new pads in. So let me get some anti-seize on here and clean this up, and then I'll get the new rotor on and we'll continue from there. Alright, once I got the bolts started, so I'm gonna go ahead and tighten those guys up. Before I get it super tight, come back in here. You guys can probably not see a thing, but I'm on the bottom bolt, tightening that guy up. Let me get the new brake pads. And if you guys, if I didn't tell you yet, we're using the StopTech street pads. Looky there. Hadn't even opened this pack yet. I guess I don't need to add anti-seize to the old pins. I get to go ahead and straight up replace them. That is awesome. Hell yeah. Just drop everything. I like it. Do you guys like it? I like it. Instead of anti-seize, I think I'm going to use some of that silicone brake grease. And I'm going to turn the key back on for a second. Turn the wheel so we can get easier access.